A few days ago, I made a video talking about video games and developers putting more accessibility options, putting in an arachnophobia mode in Jedi Survivor, or putting in a fear of water mode into Horizon, and trying to make these games more accessible for people who have phobias, and kind of having a mixed viewpoint on it. But this one it just takes the cake. Kotaku failed journalistic website. Star Wars Jedi Survivor basically has a Matrix style slow mo mode. This article is from Wednesday, so a few days ago. Among a generous suite of accessibility options is a way to slow down combat and platforming sequences automatically or at will. You have got to be shitting me. Star Wars Jedi Survivors is out for a shoot. I'm going to get this down. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is out in only a few short days, and it's promising some accessibility options that sound incredibly helpful for those looking to take their time acclimating to the game's potential challenges. In other words, you don't have a good reaction time. Hey, we got you, fam. We're going to make the game easier and easier and easier for you. One standout feature is the option to slow combat and traversal down so you can take these challenges on at your own pace. So you're fundamentally changing the difficulty of the game in order to make it easier for you. I would almost consider this a journalist mode. It's slower. It's going to slow the game down for you so you can respond faster. When it was released back in 2019, Jedi Fallen Order was one hell of a thirst quencher after a damn near drought of single-player Star Wars games. Set in the gap between the prequel and the original Star Wars films, players assume the role of Cal Kestis, a Jedi Padawan caught in the midst of a galactic political upheaval, blah, 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 featuring Dark Souls-esque combat and structure. Though not nearly as punishing, it became a favorite among Star Wars and action-adventure game fans alike. So it has been described as having Souls-like mechanics, as a Souls-like game, which I believe means it is supposed to be unforgiving. You need reflexes, quick response time, and learning the patterns of the bosses and the enemies. One of the things that kept me away from most of the Dark Souls games is because I heard how difficult it was. Now, I enjoy action games, RPGs, shoot 'em ups, whatever like that. But when the game is too difficult for my reflexes, for my own personal skills, mediocre as they are, to handle, well, I'll just watch other people play it. I'll hear about the game. I don't have to buy and play every single game, and this is my issue. When you put a function like this, a toggle switch like this, into a game where we're just going to slow everything down for you so it make it easier for you. On one hand, yes, like I said before, it's a developer's choice. They can put whatever they want in the game, but at the same time, you're changing your vision of the game to appease a very small portion of gamers that might consider buying the game. There's a huge fan base out there that buy games like this specifically because they are difficult. They want to hone their skills. They want to challenge themselves. And when you put things like this, a slow-mo mode, it opens the door to cave into your own frustration. I played Elden Ring, and I died over and over and over on every single boss until I got to the point where I learned the moves, I learned the tells, I was able to respond. I got better. I got used to the mechanics and the controls. This option, I'll die if I were to die 20 times on a single boss that I just want to get past. I'll put that slow-mo on. I'm tempted. The human nature. You're tempted to use this function in the game, and then what happens? Do you just automatically turn it off? Sure. And then the next boss, you die 10 times, you turn it right back on. Finish the boss. Get to the next boss. Die 5 times, then 3 times. Then you just leave it on. And then all of a sudden it's not really all that spectacular that you played through the game and you beat the game. It's like taking Doom Eternal and turning the difficulty all the way down to nothing. Turning it down to journalist mode and beating the game. Sure, you experienced the story, but you did not experience any of the challenge that the developers put into the game in order to make the game fun. Not every game has to be playable by every person. That's just it. Things like this will turn players off because if the option's there, I'm just not interested in playing anymore. But what about the story? Well, I'll go watch somebody else play the story. I'll go read about the story. I don't have to play the game. And you will lose sales because of these things. It's more likely you'll lose more sales than you gain. Same thing with the arachnophobia. Everybody has fears, and that's fine. Don't turn it on. Okay. But what I would like to see is if you turn the arachnophobia mode on, I think Grounded does this. It turns the spiders into the most ridiculously funny thing imaginable. Instead of making them less scary, it makes them ridiculously humorous. Which, if somebody's watching a playthrough with that on, I think that would be entertaining. But again, at the same time, video games, this is almost one of the best ways to get over your fears, fight your fears, feel better about it. But putting in a difficulty slider like this in a game that's supposed to be difficult is, I don't know. I think it takes away from the game. It takes away from the excitement, the skill needed to play the game. So what else does the article have to say? As outlined in its Designing Accessibility blog, making the game easier for someone to play is not accessibility. Putting in a colorblind mode, that's accessibility. Putting in a mode where you only need one hand to manipulate the controller to do most things in the game, that has accessibility. Making the game easier to play with a slow-mo mode or a difficulty slider, that has nothing to do with accessibility. I don't care what James Sterling says. A difficulty option that scales back combat difficulty and is quite common among many games today. Wait a minute. Let me read that again. Survival will feature various accessibility options such as story mode, a difficulty option that scales back combat difficulty and is quite common. Okay, story mode. So you're just playing you're just playing cutscenes. The game is going to we're going to get to the point where video games are going to have an option where you just go play it for me and you just get to watch. What is the purpose of that? I guess it's for journalists to go and check things out when all they would have to do is watch somebody else play the game, which they probably do already. No pride in your own work. Other options include gameplay modifiers like camera auto-targeting. Oh, that's not accessibility. That's just making the game easier to play by itself. Button toggle options for holding and pulling, as well as the ability to remap any control to your liking. Well, again, that has nothing to do with accessibility. The ability to remap your control should be standard in every game put out there. Dear developers, please make the controls mappable. All of them. Just do it. Just do it. The game also includes various color options. Now, there we go. Color profile options, field of view slider, HUD adjustments to tweak how it all sits on the frame. Yes, see, that's accessibility. People who can't see well, people who have color blindness. That's accessibility. Making the game easier to play, that has nothing to do with it. But on this new feature that slows down both combat and platforming, Respawn said the slow mode has been a particularly exciting feature to work on because of its versatility. It primarily started out as a feature that we thought would be helpful in combat, but quickly realized that it would be beneficial for anything that had a timing component. So you're dumbing down a core mechanic of the game to what? It opens up some of our platforming to be more accessible. No, it just makes it easier. There's a difference. Allows for different reaction times because we just got to do it. And helps make the game generally more accessible to a larger audience. I have a problem with this particular part because you're talking about reaction times. Well, not everybody has reaction times. Again, This is the argument I see. If you're not going to use it, you don't have to turn it on. When you get frustrated and want to throw your $75 controller across the room because you just can't get it right, and you get the boss down to one hit left, and he ends up killing you, the frustration arises. So instead of putting the controller down, taking a moment, taking a breather, and then coming back and having that joy, that adrenaline rush, that sense of accomplishment where you just scream up, yeah, and yell at your TV or your computer screen and scare the crap out of everyone around you because you got so excited at beating this difficult boss. You can just go into the options and make the game easier. It loses the sense of accomplishment, which is essentially the purpose of video games. Because you're not going outside and climbing a mountain unless you've been trained to that to get that sense of accomplishment. You're not going drive through the streets of Night City in your real car, running pedestrians over to get the cops to chase after you to try and survive to get that sense of accomplishment. You're not going... you're not going to cast spells and kill that dragon going outside in the real world. You're not going to do these things because they don't exist. They exist in the fantasy world of video games. There's difficulty in video games for a reason. If all you want to do, especially in today's day and age with social media and Twitch and YouTube and now Kick and all these other platforms, if all you want to do, you just want to experience the story, go watch somebody play. Because you're going to spend $70 on a video game to play the most absolute dumbed down version of the game? Am I the only person that thinks that's the colossal waste of money? And all you're doing is, and then you're going to complain about the game anyway afterwards if it's buggy or if it's crap. Just go watch someone else play the game. Someone who's going to play it on the highest difficulty or standard difficulty, like myself, because I'm terrible. But, I don't turn down the difficulty. Whatever the standard is, I leave it at that. And if I can't beat it, I can't beat it. I tell myself, get good, motherfucker. Half of my gaming titles is Gen X scrub thinks he can game. This is a dumbing down of the video game industry that is an embarrassment to gamers. You think gamers are idiots? They have no skill. They don't know how to get better. You think they have the attention span of a squirrel, and it's disrespectful. Sure, make the game that you want to make. Put in the difficulty sliders all you want to. But when you have a game like Elden Ring that broke sales records, where Elden Ring was my first experience with a Souls-like game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got frustrated one boss after another. I got frustrated when I had basic enemies just walk up behind me and slap me around like a bitch. I put the controller down, I took a deep breath, I came back, and I got better. I got more skilled. I paid attention to it. And I felt that amazing sense of accomplishment when playing the game. Modes like this take away that sense of accomplishment. I don't know where this leads, but I predict eventually you're just going to have a cutscene mode where the game plays itself, but who the hell is going to buy anything like that? Besides journalists. But anyway, what do you think of all these easy modes and toggle switches in the video games nowadays? Arachnophobia mode, Thassalacea that I can't remember for Horizon Zero Dawn, slow motion mode in video games where timing is just so important. Do you think they're catering to a bunch of babies, or do you think this is a good idea? Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate you making it this far.